Hi, I'm Miss Kim, the art instructor at the Music Connection in Orland Park, Illinois. And today I'm excited to teach you this landscape painting done with acrylic paints. And not only are we doing that, but we're adding a 3D gloss gel and a modeling paste. So let's begin. All right, now I want to show you the materials we're going to be using today. So the mixed media pad 11x14. I have two new products, a 3D gloss gel that's transparent. Then I have a modeling paste, opaque matte. I had bought a mixed media essentials kit with those two in it and other things in there. But you could certainly just buy those individually on Amazon. You have your parents help you with that. Here are the colors we'll be using: black, a white, a tan, or it's called flesh tone, a yellow ochre or yellow, a pale green, a emerald green, a sap green, a phthalo green, so more like a light, a tealish green, and then darker greens to very dark. So 4 different greens, a cobalt blue and a cerulean blue, or like a medium blue and a darker blue. To get the lighter blues of the water, we're going to be adding white anyway, so not to worry. As long as you are within those ranges of the colors, it's fine. Then I have a Sharpie paint marker. Also a Sharpie's permanent marker will be fine with a decent sized tip, like I have shown here. Then I have a pencil, if you need it, with an eraser, sharpened. And I have some brushes here, rounds, this is a fine tip, a medium, and then I have some square kind of tipped chisel brushes, small, mediums, into larger, okay? Then I have a couple paint palette knives. You could just use one if you need. Some water in a container, some like styrofoam plates, paper towel, a cover for your table, plastic. So I'm going to set this picture to the side. So here's my paper. I did put like a watercolor page underneath just to act as a barrier between the paper I'm painting on and the other papers. Just to have that barrier between the pad itself and the picture you're painting on. I'm taking my Sharpie paint marker, or you could take a pencil. I'm going to go right in with a marker, but whatever I'm doing with a marker, you could do with a pencil and eraser if you're feeling a little uncomfortable with the sketching of a landscape. I'm going to try to keep it real simple and think like coloring book, the effect. You're just drawing in the lines to create the background, the foreground, and the middle ground. So background is, you know, the mountains and the sky and the clouds and the sun. Middle ground is in the middle and foreground's up front. So here is my paint marker. I'm putting the cap on. I'm going to activate it by pushing down on my palette to get the paint activated in it. I'm going to start with just looking at that part of the picture. It's a little off center. I think it looks better than being absolutely center, so it's forgiving. I'm just making a little squiggle line like this and kind of copying it a little of what I drew up above. And that's it. Don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. Just do a squiggly line like that and then a half sun, like a curve, like so. And that's it. Next, I'm going to go right into the middle ground first. I'm not going to do the mountains, but I'm going to remember like a hand space and right in here. And see, I don't have a ruler out. I'm just using my hands. The trees will be here and here. So right in the middle here, middle ground, I'm going to create these hilly, grassy terrain. So I'm going to just start with lines like this and coming up like that. That's going to be this line. Then I'm going to do one here and it's going to be up like so. Kind of similar to what I got in that pitch right here with this line. Okay. Now I'm going to come in and do this line here, and it's just a slope because the land is hilly and green and very lush in my landscape. I'm going to do this line, kind of a horizon line too, and I'm going to stop there because the trees will come into play soon. All right, let's do the mountains. I'm going to just start here and I'm going to do this mountain, then this one, and then that one. So I'm just going to go up and come down, and I'm going to be a little jagged with the lines. And that is part of my one mountain. Second mountain, I'm going to go up, come down, and then I'm just going to make a squiggle down the mountainside. Just like that. And this part now, I'm going to come up and just come over with a little bit of line here to define the shape of the mountain. And that's it. So far I have my sky with my cloud and my sun, mountaintop, and rolling hills in the background that are green and lush. Now I'm coming up to the foreground and I have a waterfall, a little river rolling in, and then a little waterfall, and all the water and the turbulence of the water collecting at the bottom, and then it's within the land that's coming in here and the land on this side. You'd almost need a bridge to come over the water here. So with that said, I'm going to first do this little island here. So I'm going to come over here and just kind of make a sloped land and go like that. That's all I did. And then over here, where this line is where the land is. I'm going to kind of come in at an angle and just come up here. So this is like a point, but this has a little gap. It's okay. And then from here, I'm going to just come down, and I'm going to create some lines to create the landscape down below here. Kind of like I did right in here. Okay. Right in here is where my waterfall will come through. And I'm just going to put some lines to suggest it. We're going to paint over that. Now I'm going to put my trees here. And I'm going to start with this tree here. And I'm just going to go like a Christmas tree effect. And remember, this is a rough sketch right now. We're going to be painting over this, so it doesn't really matter. It's just so you know. And some lines to show where the bark is in the base of the tree. That's it. Then I'm going to do another tree here. It's leaning a little more in. It's not, you know, perfectly shaped, and they sometimes lean depending on how they're growing on the terrain of the land. And then some background trees. One there, one here. There's my sketch of that. Okay, now I'm going to move over here and put these trees. I'm going to have one that's right here. This one right here we're going to look at. And I'm going to start at the top, and I'm just going to go like this. And that's it. And look at, I'm not even thinking about, I'm not making it perfect. Because in nature, trees are formed kind of like not perfect, symmetrical on both sides. It's not nature. And then we're going to put another tree here that's a little higher up, more up to the top. Be sure not to get that perforated part of your paper in case you decide to cut it out and tear it out, then it will affect it. I'm putting some grass growing upward like so, and then the bark, and then a little tree in the background here, and one here. Now look at, they're not exactly the same, but you get the idea. Now here I want to put a little right in this line here with this terrain. I'm just putting this little line to show it's like at a hill, and a little grass tufts sticking out that are, because it's not evenly mowed, and that's how I want it to look. And down here a little bit of grass, and maybe a little darkening here to create a little ridge of mud showing on your land that's going into the water. Okay. The birds come in later after you're painted and dried, and your signature comes at the end. So we'll set that aside. Everything I did here with a marker, you could do with a pencil if you feel more comfortable sketching in yours. And it doesn't have to look exactly like mine, but I want you to get the sense of a landscape with a mountain, with trees, rolling hills, and some water, and a sky with the sun and clouds. This way you're getting a little variety of a whole landscape. All right, now I have my watercolor sheet. It's like the front of a watercolor pad that I'm using behind it just as a little protective barrier. But say if you have like a cutting board or something, you could put it under. Ask your parents, not a wood one, maybe like a plastic dollar store would be good, or something just to add as a barrier a little bit, okay? So I have my paints here, and my 3D gloss gel will be with the water part, The modeling paste will be with the mountainous part, and the rest we're just painting with acrylic paints. So here are my colors: black and white, tan and yellow, the greens and the blues, like we had gone over. And here's my palettes. So I could set these things aside. I'm going to go ahead and do my sky right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a really, really light tan on my paint palette. Just a little dab. I just need a dot. And I'm going to make it kind of watercolor-ish. So I'm going to use like a brush this size, a chiseled one. I'm going to wet my brush in my water container, dab that excess water off, and just take a little dab of that paint. And I want it like a little watery, so I'm going to add a little tiny bit more water to create a watercolor wash effect. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint around those lines there, around my sun. And I can add a little more water to create a watercolor effect. And you're just going to let it branch out past the clouds. You're not painting the clouds on this color. This is the sky. The clouds are white in my picture. And just take a little more dab of that and go ahead and just add around the clouds. Branch, just kind of letting those rays of that light go out that way. And that's all you're going to do. Clean this brush out real good. Take the excess off, and let's get a light blue. I've got a cobalt blue, but anything along this line. A tiny dot again, really small. And we could add a little bit of white to make it a little less vibrant, just to tone that color down a touch. And I'm going to take my brush that I had before, put a little water on it, dab it on the paper towel, and I'm mixing the two on my palette. Add a little more water. We're going to make it very watercolory like. And we're going to take the lighter end of it and just go out here, start from the outside part and move it in, and you're going to just color between the trees. And we're going to be very loose and relaxed. We're not going to worry about brush strokes and all that. We're just going to put it in. Add a little more water and just stretch that color into that tan. So it'll kind of start to blend within it, and then you're going to get a little tail end of that tan and that come together. And then we're going to go and get a little more blue off the palette and finish this side. And if it goes into the tree lines, it's okay, because you're going to be painting green and it'll cover it anyway. We're going to leave the cloud like that for now and just do that light blue behind everything there. Now, as you can see, I did the cloud bluish, a little darker. So I'm going to take my paintbrush, take that extra water off, go to the darker part, and then fill that cloud in now. So it's a little darker. It's watery, like a watercolor, and that's fine. Add a little more blue. And it's like coloring in the lines now, like a coloring book. You just drew your own coloring book, a landscape image. I want you to learn how to do that without having to find a picture to draw, to paint that's drawn for you. You're drawing it. Okay, now we're going to take the yellow, a tiny, tiny dab, really tiny, because you're only going to just do that little sun. We're going to keep it the color it is, yellow ochre or one like it, a yellow like it, and just dab your brush in that and just color in your sun. And that is it. Keep it in the lines because it's just that sun. It's peeking behind the cloud. It's a little bit of some clouds in the sky, just a little. I'm cleaning my brush out with my water real good and taking the excess water off and letting it sit on my paper towel. Now we're going to go on to the mountains. We aren't doing this part or the trees. We're just doing these mountains right in here. That's it. So with that, we are going to take a little bit of, we're going to take some white, and we're going to squeeze out a good amount, like so, for your mountains. We're going to make a gray. We're going to be mixing the black and the white, and we're going to actually make two piles of white. One there, and this is going to be another pile right there. You don't need a lot. And we're going to take the black, very little, a tiny, tiny dab of it here, like so. What we're going to do is first mix these colors using your brush, wet it, take the excess water off. We're creating that gray like you see in the mountains in my picture here. So I'm combining the white and the black to create a gray. And then we're going to take this white and add it in on this end. So we have like a darker gray and a lighter gray. Okay. I am going to take the modeling paste and I'm going to just squeeze a little in it. And what that's going to do is create a thickening to this paint to create a dimensional and thick and textural. And it's white, but it's going to become the color of your paint. So get it in there and mix it in. All right, and we can take the brush, take that extra water. I'm just going to keep some of that gray on there, and I am going to go ahead right now and paint my mountains. And I'm going to do this side where it's darker. The sun's hitting and it's getting the back parts. So we're going to do like the front parts like this. I'm going to put some more water. We're making it kind of watercolor and blacking in the color right now. Oop. And if you have to use your finger to do a little erase job like I just did, you can. And just let it go right down. We can push it, and you know what? We can wash our fingers later, so we'll get a little paint on our fingers. Nothing wrong with that. Just do not put them in your mouth, of course. You want to be safe. Let's add a little more water, and we're going to go ahead and fill those mountains in with that gray on the one side. Okay. We're just kind of color blocking, I guess you could say. If it gets a little bit in the tree, the green will cover it when we get to that point. Don't worry. Now we're going to go and add a little more white to our paint to make a little bit lighter gray so the other side is highlighted. Put the cap on the white. Come back, use your brush. Shake out that water extras and then just take that excess water off your brush. We're going to mix the white in to make a lighter gray. Obviously you could see it's that, and mix it with that modeling paste in there. And we're going to brush now this side of the tree, the mountain. Maybe a little more white we'll need. I'm going to throw a little more because we want it slightly lighter than the one we initially put down. So put more white in there. Squeeze it in there. If you get paint in your fingers, it's okay. You're an artist. It happens. Mix it in there. Let's paint this side of the mountain. If you erase those lights as you're painting, it's okay. We're going to go back in with a marker later to draw those back in to define everything again at the end when everything is dry. I'm just color blocking in here, and see, I'm not really thinking about it. Okay. I'm going to put this in my brush in there. I'm going to add some more modeling paste. Ooh. Sometimes air gets in there and it kind of squirts out like that. Take another brush, get it activated, and then just mix this in, the modeling paste, into that paint. Now we're going to do something kind of fun. We're going to take a paint palette knife. This is what it looks like. You can use whatever you have. If it's along these lines is what you want. And I'm going to just scrape some of that paint on the back of my paint knife, like so. And I'm just going to sweep it across on top of this side of the mountain and just kind of do that. Create that textural effect. When the modeling paste dries, it'll create that texture, and it's the light over the dark. We'll have those gradations of color, a mixture of dark and light peeking through to describe the different colors and lights and darks of the mountainside and the range. You can even dab it down like this, and you're just trying to create that effect of ridges and mountains, not flat and smooth, but texture and rugged and different darks and lights mixed in. And you could play around with this for a while. You could pause the video and add more dark gray in, like I'm doing here, and just kind of mix it in and create the effect with your, look at it like you're creating the mountainside with your palette knife and painting those darks and lights to create the dimension and texture. Okay, take your palette knife, it can go right in the water, and I'll let you have some time to play with it. You could pause the video at this time if you like to work on that. Then you could come back. We're going to work on the trees and the middle ground, all the green. Okay, here we are starting the green. I'm going to use a fresh palette for the greens. So I'm going to start with a light pale green, put it on my palette. I think I'm going to put even more than that because we're getting quite a bit put into this picture. I'm going to take a brush, a chisel. I'm going to take the excess water off, and I am just going to kind of get this watery, kind of like a watercolor. And I'm just going to go ahead and start painting in my trees. I know this is kind of light, but we're going to go over it with some dark and see how I'm just kind of putting in that color, and I'm not thinking really hard. I'm just brushing it in those spaces and shapes right now. If some white shows through, I like that. That's fine. Makes it a little more interesting. Okay, that gives you an idea of one tree. And let's do this one. Let's get all that color in for each tree. We're working fast, and that's the purpose, is so you don't overthink it and you just do it. Okay. And we have this all in here. We can take more water and just create like a watercolor wash in here. I know it's acrylic, but you can create that transparent watercolor effect. And you're just trying to get some background light green in, because we're going to go over it with other darker greens later anyway. So it'll all come together, you'll see. And you're just getting all that greenery, all that mountain mid-ground. Don't color it in fully, just leave some light spaces in there too, because another color of green is going to go over it anyway. So just color them in like I'm doing. You might fast forward on the video here. Don't be alarmed. And then we'll resume to the regular pace of the video. And I'm wetting my brush to fill it in. Okay. Throw your brush in there. Oh, we have this little part of the island. I almost forgot. Let's get that brush again. Yep. Okay, let's let the green dry and let's do the water. And with the water, we're going to do the 3D gloss gel within the paint, mixed in to create that shiny effect and textural 3D. It's going to be turbulent here, where the water falls down and then all the water kind of collects and creates this big, turbulent little collection of water. So we'll put some of the 3D gel there. And then here's some blue. I'm going to put a good amount of my Cobalt blue, or like it. Doesn't have to be exactly. And then some more white. Squeezing it out of the tube. And I'm going to put the cap on that. And then I'm going to grab my Cerulean blue. It's a little darker blue. And I'm going to put a little in it. So this is all for the water part of the project. Down here, the river, the little waterfall, the turbulent water within this part of the water that comes flowing into my landscape. All right, I'm going to take a round brush. I'm going to wet it. I might get a little more water on there. And then I'm going to mix white and the slight blue right here together. And with it, I'm going to go ahead, it doesn't have to be fully mixed because there's little bits of white within our water, and the water may not look exactly like this, so bear with me, it's okay. Just kind of brush in your water, put a little water on it, your brush, to create a watercolor approach. Again, it'll be transparent or see-through, and it's like a watercolor effect. It's okay, we're going to get that water in and the waterfall, and just fill in this whole thing of water right in here with it. Block it all in. We're going to be putting another layer of paint down, so not to worry, and just kind of think like water and let it roll, like slide in here, make it a little turbulent in here with moving your brush around, and it's like watercolor at this point, your acrylic paint with extra water on it. Okay. Let's add a little bit of that dark in with the light mixed in. And let's just put a little dark in there, darker part of the blue. And overlap that light one a little bit. Let the light peek through over the dark. And just kind of spot paint over it. Don't paint the whole thing, just kind of go over the light a little bit. Not a lot. Okay? We're going to take the darker blue and come over here and just kind of dry brush it on somewhat in spots and just let it happen. I'm going to take a little off the green here with my finger. I'm going to add this gloss 3D gel gloss in to the blue. And it's like a big glob of it. I'm going to take and mix it in with my paintbrush. It's going to give it dimension and thickness. And I'm going to go ahead and put some right at the base of that waterfall and up going into up here. So it's going to be glossy now throughout my painting, and shiny to show the wetness of the water, and it'll dry glossy. Okay, and it's not going to be fully covered because we're going to put other layers in, so don't worry about it. Okay. You can take your palette knife again and put some paint on it and just kind of glob it at the bottom of that waterfall, that little mini waterfall, because it's falling down from this higher point down into a lower point, and it's creating that, you know, turbulent water at the bottom. If you've ever been on a water slide and you come off that, you know how at the end it's all like a big splash and you're under the water. You want to create that effect with your palette knife like I'm doing here, mixing it and letting it come out this way. And you can just take your palette knife and just skim it off the top edge, and you'll see it just skips. So you want that effect. So you're just letting it skim off the top of your picture a little. You can even come up in here where the water is going to start coming into this waterfall part. You could even follow the lines, and you can use your brush to blend that effect in a little bit later. So just play around with this. You could pause the video at this point and play with this until you get the desired effect. And they're not, no two are going to look alike. So keep that in mind, and it's okay. Have fun with this. Okay. I am going to take my liner brush, wet it, dab it on my paper towel, add a little And I'm going to just go ahead and swoop those colors down. We're going to use the marker again later when it's dry to draw in those lines again. So it'll really define it for you. Okay? I'm going to take a little of the dark blue and just kind of skim and paint it in along these lines. Okay? We're going to put that brush in, and it's not exactly the same as that, and that's okay. Let it dry. You can use the dollar store fan. You just click the switch and you can let it dry for a while, your piece. You can even just tilt it and set it like that while you're waiting. The green should be dry to the touch, so we can go back in and do the green. And we're going to be putting a little darker green in, so the sap green we can put right in with the lighter green and mix it a little. We're not adding any kind of textural paint because we're just going to be creating those trees and stuff by painting it in. We're using a darker green to darken these trees up a little. And again, you could take your time on this. I'm just going to start you off to get the idea and just kind of create a brush stroke that's like creating that the tree effect of the limbs and them branching out on your Christmas trees, I guess you could say, or your pine trees in this forest, this landscape forest. And then just keep going back in and doing each of your trees like so. You get the idea. You're going to keep going, and in the mountains too, you're going to just brush that color through, sweep it through. You can add a little water and make it watercolor-like and come in. Leave some whites showing through like I have in mine. Add some more water if it starts to get too dry. See how this little fan just dries while I'm working and it stays put, standing in place? Kind of a helpful little tool. And safe because it's a cool dry, it's not hot heat coming out of it. I wouldn't recommend that. Just use this dollar store effect. It's safe and easy. And if you paint, you're going to see it's going to come a little off the lines. Don't worry about it. Put some water on your brush. Keep doing this until you fill in all your trees, like so. Okay? I could use my finger to clean that up a little bit. Kind of going haphazard, meaning just kind of not thinking about it and just kind of sweeping in that color. And let some of the white show, let some of the lighter green show through. It'll all come together in the end, and you can play with this. Try not to put too much water because it can really make your paper buckle or bend too much too. Keep that in mind. All right, and finish that tree there. You could step back from it and look at it, see what else you need to do. Let it dry for a little. While we're waiting, the sky should be dry up here. We can put our two little birds. All it is kind of like a little dash down and then a little dash up. A little dash down and a little up. And that's it. And see how mine are slightly different? It's okay. Let this dry. And then we can go back in with our marker. The mountains should be dry at this point. I can show you how I redrew those lines right in to create my mountains, my mountain range. I just went right over, and this is all dry now, so you could draw right over it. See? And then your mountain range, or your lush rolling hills that are green and lush. Okay, and then my waterfall is still drying. I'm going to wait. Over here I can put some more black, like the mud and the edge of this landscape that's coming through by the water, and a little jaggedy maybe. And then over in the tree I'll put some of the trunks back in. Some grass again, the slope. This is coming together pretty good. Okay. All right, and I'm going to put some lines in here for the waterfall and then sign it. And there you have your landscape. You could let your fan continue to dry this. Take this away. Once this is dry and you're completed working it, you can tear it out like so and frame it if you would like, or just leave it like this. That's all for our mini tutorial today. Remember, be happy and keep creating. This is Miss Kim signing off. Bye.